friends, time for a bit of Jim Does SuperCoach NBA. I'm, of course, your host, James Clemens from NBA Straya. Jim Does SuperCoach. NBA Week 2's in the bag. How did we all go? I hope you did a bit better than last week. I did, which is nice. I got a 930 this week, ranked in the top 9%. That's a bit better than where we're at. So I think I'm ranked 2,866 overall. Let's try to get that in the top 1,000, get that into the top 500 in the next few weeks. I was still let down by a couple of spuds, which I'll get into later. So a quick rundown. We're going to go through some injuries. We're going to go through some of the top scorers, the big surprises, the standouts, the essentially those guys that is like, hang on a second, they were our best bolters last week, right? So we'll talk about some of the bolters, talk about those spuds, the big busts, our cash cows, of course, and our trade targets. But most importantly, when it comes to NBA Supercoach, we're also going to really look pretty hard at the schedule. So anyway, with my rank in the top 9%, the week 2 comp average was a score of 807. And I think injuries did play a little bit into that. A couple of spuds here and there for some other folks. Like there is conceivably teams out there that have gone an Anthony Davis, Trae Young, Ace Bailey, Chet Holmgren, Ja Morant combo in some way, right? And that could have been an absolute disaster. But the top 5% averaged about 1,000. So 930, I feel okay with that. I think the top score is like around 1,100 this week, which is just crazy and shows you the scope of the NBA Supercoach scores. But anyway, with this in mind, week 2 done. We've got a very short window before we get into week 3. It all kicks off tomorrow. So strap in. Let's hit a bunch of fun stuff. The injuries, let's hit them first. Anthony Davis hurts his leg for the Dallas Mavericks. Derek Lively, he's already out as well. So Dan Gafford's now going off his head, which is kind of nice. But Anthony Davis had 41 before he went down with that leg injury. Don't know if it's an Achilles, a calf. Hopefully he comes back soon, but it is Anthony Davis. I'd just wrap him in cotton wool for as long as possible. Trae Young, he goes out as well. He's out for a month. So if you've got Trae Young, he's got to go. That sort of does really elevate, we'll get to one of the bolters later, a couple of those Hawks teammates of his, but it's also a bit sucky. Point guard, we've got a fair few options. SGA, Austin Reeves, Luka, Booker, plenty of other names out there as well that we can sort of just slot into those point guard, shooting guard slots. So pretty easy trade out for Trae. Chet Holmgren has also missed the last 3 OKC games. So if you had him going into this week, that was a bit of a disappointment, bit of a bad one. But anyway, Ja Morant got suspended because he's a dummy and is out there throwing his coaches under the bus, which I don't know, probably not great leadership, just my vibes. And then, of course, Luka, who we all traded out at the end of last week because he was out for at least a week, came back within a week. And I kind of hit on this last week as well. He probably was always going to. That's kind of what Luka does. He goes, it's fine, finger fine, leg fine, let me play. And he gets back out there pretty quickly. But you also would have, switching out Luka, I mean, he still scored through the absolute, wahoo, which is pretty good. That's just what he does as well, right? I think Austin Reeves still managed a 112 this week. So if you brought him in, that's pretty good. But Luka is also still just so chaotic that he missed a couple of games and still managed to rattle off a 77 for the week, which is just absurd. The other big one, and this is one to keep an eye on, Dylan Harper left today's game for the Spurs. You might have missed this with a calf, leg, Achilles, ankle. We're not entirely sure what it was. It looked pretty rough. He was in a walking boot on crutches. So if you've got Dylan Harper, I had him on my bench and he might just have to go out again because we just don't know. And I'd rather probably, especially early on in the season, have a cash cow sitting there making me some money rather than sitting there worrying about an injury. So injuries are, unfortunately, a big part of Supercoach, obviously. Just sort of sucks, doesn't it? But anyway, that's kind of where we are for injuries. Outside of this, who are our best scorers for this week? As a quick little week 2 wrap, Tyrese Maxey's been going off his head for the Sixers because Joel Embiid, not at all reliable. Barely has to play sometimes, didn't play against Brooklyn. And this is the Tyrese Maxey show now. It's like Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe absolutely crushing it. I love that. Number 2 was Nikola Jokic. 138. He went ham. I think that was in 3 games as well. So this is why I held on to Jokic last week, despite maybe a little bit of a slow start. because his ceiling is still absolutely crazy. He played 3 games, was the second highest scorer in NBA Supercoach this week, right? That's why you hold Jokic or a Wemby or a Giannis. Like, Giannis missed a game and was still absolutely awesome. Paolo Banchero is the 3rd highest one this week. He had a couple of really good games for Orlando. The key for Paolo is the rebounding. Like, when he's rebounding and he's scoring, like, if he's scoring efficiently, which he did over the last couple of games, it really helps his price along. Larry Markkinen, 135. Massive, massive week for Larry. Josh Giddey, giddy up. The Yarraville Yahoo, 134. Jalen Johnson. Now, this is the Trae Young teammate I was saying benefits a bit from having Nicky Alexander-Walker and Dyson Daniels now running the show instead of Trae. And he has proven that. 132 is big. Devin Booker rips off a 130. SGA manages 126. I had him as the captain. He actually, there's like 1 or 2 sort of inefficient-ish sort of scoring games in there for SGA, which capped his score this week. Vooch, Nikola Vucevic, 123 for him, and Austin Reeves rounds out the top 10 at 112. But there's a bunch of bolters and interesting ones outside of that. So let's have a look at those. Obviously, the best bolters, Larry Markkinen, going off his head, priced at 12 mil. On this weird Utah team that are trying to showcase him because, I don't know, they'll probably trade him. 135, awesome. The 132 for Jalen Johnson is really good. The 123 for Vooch. Like, these bolters are the folks who are owned by 0.1% of NBA Supercoach coaches. There's 39 coaches out there who own Vooch. That's insane. Isaiah Hartenstein manages 111. There's 30 coaches that have him. And without Chet, he obviously becomes super valuable, but we just don't know when Chet's going to come back. It's like the weird thing about OKC. They're just like, we've got so many dudes, it doesn't matter. Jalen Williams is out for a couple more weeks. We know this. Chet, we're going day to day. It's really tough when you're playing a weekly approach to fantasy like NBA Supercoach, but here we are. The other bolters, like Keontae George has been really good for the Jazz too. He had 105. Kelly Oubre managed a 103. Mark Williams, 104. Also got absolutely yammed on by Keldon Johnson. The interesting one for me is Jake LaRavia had a 101 for the Lakers. So they did play 4 games this week, but his role and like just going, wait a minute, we don't have too many like healthy bodies out here, and he's just such a great opportunistic rebounder and scorer that I don't mind a little bit of Jake LaRavia. Colin Gillespie had 91, very solid for him. Like, that's kind of fun. Way to go, Cole. There's 18 coaches who put their faith in Colin Gillespie, priced at 6.6 mil now, after a $900,000 price rise this week because he had 91 for the Suns. But at the same time, that team's horrible. So why not roll the dice with Colin Gillespie? And obviously Ryan Rollins was the other big one. He scored 90. He was on 99 teams already just because there was a little bit of a smattering this last week. Now he goes bang. Priced at 7.1 mil, 90 points in the bank. Jalen Duren, I enjoyed him having a pretty good week, 88 for him. He's priced at 14.9 mil, but with our center spots kind of limited, and he is just a pure C next to his name, so you're using either flex or the center position for him, so a bit of a rough one, but 88 still pretty good. And my favorite one, though, I was on him early, feeling great about this. He's been starting as well for the Boston Celtics, Josh Minott. Solid defensively, decent rebounder, kind of the thing they need around all these shooters. So I think he'll get plenty of opportunities. He's just locked and loaded as my power forward bench player. He should have started this week. He scored 74. That's way more than Ace Bailey's, 24? See ya, Ace Bailey, on your bike. So there's some good bolters. What about the busts this week? Ace Bailey had the 1 point last week. Only 11% ownership drop last week from 56 to 45% of Supercoach owners. Like, all right, cool, we'll keep the faith. 26 points this week. His break-even was 46. The big problem for me is like the breakout scoring games where I think will come for Ace Bailey. It's the lack of ancillary stats that really hurt his Supercoach scoring ability, I think. So I think with such a cutthroat approach to Supercoach, this week in, week out, and with 70-odd trades to play with, we can probably move on from Ace Bailey until we sort of maybe see something else, because his break-even is going to sit around where it is at the moment, where his score was. So it's not going to really hurt you if you've got him on your bench, but yeah, it's really tough to start him this week. So Colin Murray-Boyle came out of nowhere as well. 25% of coaches had him last week and had his -3. He had 66 this week because of a really good final game of the round as it were. And I think I went from him to Cedric Coward, and I'm pretty sure they scored the same. So that was just fine. Yeah, he ended up with 25 against Memphis after a 21, a 13, a 7, and then a 25. So I don't feel too bad about missing that one. I feel much better about Cedric Coward, who's now up to 6.5 mil and just looks super duper solid and has got a pretty good role on that Memphis team. Other busts, you think about Derek White. He had 46 this week. He's owned by 16% of coaches. I mean, Buzelis last week also sort of had this, really slow start. And like Chicago, though, are unbeaten. And Buzelis sort of turned around this week. I think, what did he have? He had 27 in the first 2 games. He had 70 this week. And I think even though Chicago only played 3 games this week, he's very high up on my trade-in list. Another big bust. How about Zachary Richarche? Last year's number 1 pick. 30 points in 4 games this week. That Hawks team is just, he's not really slotting in properly or that well. It sort of sucks. Young Hansen. Young, he had 8 points in the first week. He had -2 this week, so that's not great. If you've got Klay Thompson, what are you doing? He's on 4% of teams. He had 14 points, a couple of rough ones there. And another bounce back one, Amen Thompson. He had 71 points this week too. But in terms of like other busts, like the Ace Bailey one's obviously pretty tough. But if you're owned by a bunch of super coaches, this week wasn't too bad. Like even Reed Shepherd repaid the faith if you kept him. He had 45 points and actually rose in price 420. 420, hey. And outside of that, the 46 of Derek White that I mentioned, Igor Demin, 12% of coaches have got him. The Nets are just an absolute train wreck. He and I think like Benny Sarif, Danny Wolf was ruled out of today. Their rookies are just really struggling, and that team is just horrible to watch. So otherwise, Cam Whitmore, 26, not great. Xavier Tillman, 14. These guys are in more than 9% of teams, so yeah, I guess they're kind of busts. The cash cows, though, that we're keeping an eye on for this week, right? This is the good stuff. This is where we're going to make our money early in the season, especially. So I'm sort of particularly bloody minded, I reckon, when it comes to NBA Supercoach, looking at the way the format is rolling out and the scores that we're seeing. I'm sort of much happier to go, right, underperforming player X, gone. Like, even Dylan Harper, if he's on my bench, I'm probably going to, like, downgrade him to Quentin Jackson or something like that, to have that money continuously sort of flowing over and hopefully rising. And also, trying to get points on the court rather than like, hopefully Ace Bailey will be getting better. So some of our cash cows this week, Ryan Kalkbrenner, if you don't have him already, what are you doing? The great center backup spot. He's got to break even to -34. I think Charlotte only played 2 games next week, though, so it's a bit of a tough one, but he will still rise in price. Colin Gillespie's got to break even to -18. He's a pretty good option, but with point guard, shooting guard, stuff like that, there are a lot of options already out there. Like, I'm starting VJ Edgecombe on the court. Dylan Harper, I'll probably go to Quentin Jackson. He's got to break even to -5. He's priced at 5.6 mil, so he's a little bit more affordable than the 6.6 of Colin Gillespie. Just saying. But Gillespie's a pretty good shout. So is Quentin Jackson. LaRavia was the one that I mentioned as well. He's got to break even to -15 now. Power forward, small forward for the Lakers. 7.7 mil. Don't mind that. My favorite, though, is still probably Josh Minott. -13 break even. The Celtics, they just need him out there on the court. I think Joey Mazzulla has figured that out. Joey Musbro, 4.8 mil. He's laughing. Jalen Williams had a really good game the other day too. He's got to break even to -13. Ryan Rollins at the -11. That's that other sort of point guard spot where he's going to make a lot of cash because he's going to play a lot. And they're just going to, with Kevin Porter Jr. now out, this is like a Ryan Rollins experience there in Milwaukee. So he has had a great week. He will probably continue to have a great week. Love him at 7.1 mil. If you can fit him on your bench in your point guard spot, because he's only the PG, not a PG SG. Love me some Ryan Rollins. Job security's good. KPJ out for a little while. He'll continue to make a lot of cash. Colin Murray-Boyles, break even to -11. 4.9 mil for Toronto. Yes, came along a little bit better, but they also were missing Jacob Poeltl, a.k.a. Teenage Mutant Jakob Poeltl. So he's played a little bit more. I do fear that it's a little bit too boomy or busty. But 4.9 mil, he got a 66 this week. If you're going to roll with him, if you've got him already, you're laughing. Sion James for the Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo didn't play today. That, will continue to happen at times. He's a LaMelo. He has a break-even of -11. Not a bad backup thing, but again, I think there's better options at the point guard, shooting guard. VJ Edgecombe obviously still break-even of -8. Everyone loves him. He had 88 points this week. He's an absolute unreal gun. 6.3 mil. If you don't have him already, what are you doing? Pele Larson as well for the Heat. He's going to break even to -8 because they've got very few players. Remember how one of their players got like pinged for gambling? Anyway, Jalen Tyson as well for Cleveland, 9-7. Not bad as a sort of wing shooting guard, small forward. Love that DPP. Quentin Johnson, love him as well because they had to start him today. They're running out of options. They're trying to figure out what works. Well, it wasn't today. I think he played against the Warriors yesterday. He started, had a great fourth quarter. They just need point guard options at this point too. They signed Mac McClung. That's how few options they've got on that Indiana Pacers team at the moment. They realize that Ben Shep is not their point guard. So Quentin Jackson's out there at the moment. I'm probably just going to have him on my bench, keep an eye on it, see how we go. Another break-even, Aussie Jock Landau as your center. 5.5 mil, break-even to -5. Con Knippel, break-even of 0. Luka Garza had 54 points last week as well. He's got a break-even to -1. Another solid cheapie. If you can't afford Kalkbrenner at 5.4, Luka Garza at 4.2. Not bad right there, right? You got Marvin Bagley. I just don't trust his job security. Break-even is 0, and there we go. Larry Markkanen's got a break-even of 2. He's at the 2.3 mil spot. He's pretty good. And Reed Shepherd, break even of 4. He'll continue to make money. Stephon Castle, if you can get up to him, he's looked unreal for last year's Rookie of the Year. Break even of 3, 9.9 mil. So some pretty good ones there. The one that I'm sort of keeping an eye on is Matthias Buzalis. He's got a break even of 9. I'm probably going to get him in for this week. I just really like his upside. The way that Bulls team is playing at the moment. He has the ancillary stats as well that sort of help keep his, he had 70 this week. I feel like we can keep that up. But anyway, so that's sort of, we talk about trade targets for week 3. The 4-game teams this week. So the teams that are playing 4 games are the ones that we're probably going to target, right? And that's where Chicago and getting someone like Buzalis in gets a little bit weird because you think, well, if he's going to play only 3 games versus maybe some of the other options at his price point, which is only 7.1 mil, because he rose 490K, but I mean, are there any other options at that price point if you're jumping from someone like Ace Bailey? Is there anyone on these other teams that could probably hit that spot? I don't know. Let's have a look. So the teams that we're looking at that have 4 games this week, there's 17 teams that have 4 games max this week, which is pretty cool. So that's obviously a lot of the NBA. It's Brooklyn, Boston, Dallas, Denver, hello Jokic, Detroit, Golden State, Houston, Indy, the Clippers, Memphis, Miami, Milwaukee, it's Algonquin for the good land, Minnesota, OKC, Philly, Sacramento, and Washington. So with this in mind, a couple of the ones that I'll be looking at, obviously Jokic is my captain. I've still got Wemby in my flex spot. He's got 3 games this week. I think he's fine. His potential to just drop 50 game in, game out is just undeniable. We saw it with Jokic this week, right? Even if you've got 3 games, you can probably hack it if you've got someone who's going to give you plenty of points across the board. But I think there's someone I've got All-Star Thompson on my team, right? As a bit of a mid-pricer at that small forward position. I think might be, he might have switched over to the power forward this week. But with Detroit, we're also going to look at some of these schedule quirks where if you look at some of these teams like Boston, they've got a great schedule this week. They've got home for Washington and then Utah. And then they play Orlando twice. And Orlando's defense has been horrible to start the season. It is slowly getting better. But Boston, look, Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, Josh Minott and co. Derek White, if you've got him, it feels yeah, cool. If you've got those 4 games, you feel okay about them. Detroit's the same sort of thing, right? They've got 4 games this week. They play Memphis, who are all out of sorts, Utah, who are in struggle town, Brooklyn, who are horrible, and Philly, who are happily running and gunning back and forth and trying to outshoot teams, right? So the likes of Detroit, if you've got maybe Trae Young, I'd probably be going to maybe Cade Cunningham this week. Not a bad look. If you've got a center, maybe Jalen Duren if that's in your price point. But I'm going to stick with someone like All-Star Thompson because I think he's just going to continue to get better and better and better and warm into this season. So I feel cool about that. But the biggest ones, I guess, the ones that we might have to look at trading out, obviously the ones that I talked about, the injury-laden folks out there, of AD, Trae Young, maybe Dylan Harper, but I'm probably going to move from Dylan Harper and get ahead of the injury news because I just don't think we can be really carrying, an injured player on the bench when there's money to be made in like week 3 of NBA Supercoach. So I think the other sort of the most traded in players at the moment are like Ryan Rollins, Larry Markkinen. And I think if you can get Markkinen now at 12.3 mil, he's got a couple of really good weeks ahead as well. They've got the 4-game week this week too. Larry's just going to be the focal point of what Utah do as long as he's healthy. So don't mind it, especially at that price point. Luka is obviously being traded in a lot. He had 77 this week. His break even is 42. The Lakers are pretty interesting. They've only got I think they've got 3 games this week, the Lakers. But I mean, Luka's also in that Jokic Wemby camp where he could just score so much. 3 games is enough. With his 20 million price point, I don't know. Devin Booker's obviously on that list too. People have been trading out Austin Reeves. His break-even 65. He's just going to be super solid as long as LeBron is out as well. I'll probably keep him for another week or two. Or Saab Thompson. I just mentioned him. He's got 4 games this week. Break-even is 79. I think he'll be fine. Fingers crossed. Cooper Flag, Wemby, Jaylen Brown. Don't trade them out. Simple as that. So I think with a lot of these sort of looks out there, the cash cows are the ones that you sort of need to really identify. You got to figure out which ones that you really, really want to have on your bench. I think the one thing for me is like I've still got Tyrese Proctor sitting there and he's sort of getting a couple of minutes here or there. He's not going to drop below that 3.5 mil spot. I don't really have to stress about him either. It's one of the interesting quirks, I think, of NBA Supercoach is the bench with the sort of rolling game aspect of NBA Supercoach. Like your bench coverage, if one of those folks on the court have already played, your bench coverage doesn't really matter because like it's already done skis. So bit of a weird one, but for the minute, I think what I'll do is bring in Buzelis for Ace Bailey and probably go from Dylan Harper down to Quentin Jackson. Save a little bit of cash and get someone who can actually, drop a 70 in my small forward, power forward spot in Buzelis. That sort of forward line, I kind of wish it was a little bit more solid, but I think that's where I'm going to try to make a bit of money is, sort of continuously upgrade. Because at the moment, SGA, Austin Reeves, Wemby, Jokic feels pretty good. And there are a couple of cheapies if you want to go from, one of someone like Jaylen Brown in a couple of weeks' time. If he had 91 this week. I think his break even was 90. So it's like he's not quite hitting the levels I thought he might. He might be one that I jump off eventually, but with Boston's schedule the way it is, I mean, they've got 4 games this week. They've got 3 next week, 3 the week after, the 3 after that. I might be jumping off him to another shooting guard. There's probably better options who are playing 4 games next week. So anyway, that's where we're at. Play the schedule. Get your cash cows in. I wouldn't be hesitant about using trades right now to ensure that you've actually got cash gen either on your bench or on your court that are also, as long as they're getting you points as well. So I'm happy to cut bait with underperformers. That's how NBA Supercoach should roll out, I think. Let us know what you reckon. There you go. Week 3 preview of NBA Supercoach. Done. How much fun is this? It is absolute chaos tracking all this too. So I think other ones that you want to sort of look at with all of the teams on these 4-game weeks, Brooklyn, Boston, Dallas, like that helps Cooper Flag, right? Denver, that certainly helps with Jokic. Everybody else on that team, maybe not so Supercoach relevant unless you're like one of the biggest Aaron Gordon fans out there. I'm probably not going to stick with Jamal Murray or anything. Detroit, as I mentioned, Cade Cunningham, Osar Thompson, I think that's really good for them this week. Golden State. Steph had a bit of a quieter week this week in terms of Supercoach scoring. I think he'll be all right. Jimmy Butler had a pretty good week, but still, if you've got Steph, you're laughing. Houston, KD, Amen Thompson, LP Şengün, even Reed Shepherd. That'll probably help him this week as well. But, I mean, if you look at Reed Shepherd versus Quentin Jackson, I mean, that's not a bad one, but Quentin Jackson has sort of proven he's the starting point guard. Reed Shepherd's still coming off the bench. How much do they trust him? I like Jackson's job a little bit better. Obviously, elsewhere on Indy, like, I don't know, Siakam, but I like Jackson a bit there. The Clippers, Harden and co, they've sort of been flying under the radar, have the Clippers, because you've got, well, they've only had the 2 games this week anyway. So they suddenly jump up to 4. You're probably not having Kawhi. Zoobs is a pretty good one, but I don't know, in terms of centering, this is probably where we find out a lot about the Clippers this week. So I'm just going to pump the brakes. If you want to get Harden in and jump the gun, go nuts. We've got Memphis. I mean, Cedric Coward, feel good. Jock Landale, not a bad idea as a cash cow on your bench if you don't have Kalkbrenner, but otherwise, a bit tricky. Miami sort of hit on a bit of those dudes. Pele Larson, anybody? Yeah, I didn't think so. Minnesota, no Ant-Man. It just gets very, very weird and thin on the ground there. Milwaukee, Giannis, he's already sort of had like that one game that he missed. I'd kind of like with 4 games this week, if you've got Wemby or Giannis, we're going to come out of this week going, ooh, wish I had the other one. Okay, so you've got SGA. He's got his 4 games. I feel good about that. Philly, VJ Edgecombe, Maxey, another big weekend coming for them, I reckon. Sacramento, yeah, don't know too much. Like Sabonis is probably an interesting downgrade target at some point once Jokic's schedule maybe turns. And Washington, yeah, if you brought in Keyshawn George, good on you. He was fine-ish this week, but otherwise, yeah, I'm fine not having too many Wizards on my team. So, yeah, that's it. There you go. That's heading into week 3. So strap in. It's going to be a fun one. This has been super duper fun. So we'll be back on Wednesday on Jim Does SuperCoach for NFL SuperCoach, wrapping up week 9. But in the meantime, make sure you're following Jim Does SuperCoach, NBA Straya, NFL Straya on Twitter, Facey, IG, TikTok, YouTube, all the good stuff. The respective sports live under NBA and NFL Straya's YouTube as well. Go check it out. Hope you're enjoying it. And yeah, let us know what you reckon. What else do you want me to cover? Should it be more, I don't know, question-based? Hit us up. But we're trying to get this out as quick as we can with the very short turnaround from week to week to week in NBA Supercoach. So let us know what you reckon. Jump in the DMs. Hit us up in the comments. And rate, review, star, subscribe, all that good stuff on your podcast app. Come on. It's 2025. You know what to do. 5 stars. Leave a review. Be a legend. Come on. All right. Big thanks to Joshua De Laurentiis for the intro and outro song. He rocks. Love yous all. That's been Jim Does SuperCoach for Week 2 NBA. We'll talk to you on Wednesday for NFL SuperCoach. Happy SuperCoaching.